This is Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. Here's your host, Rob Woodbridge.
Hi everybody, and welcome to Untether.tv, where we get inside the business of mobile. I'm joined today all the way from Sacramento, California, by Aaron Watkins, who's the co-founder of Appency. Aaron, welcome to Untether, and thanks for joining us and filling us in on your story.
Rob, thank you.
So tell me very quickly about Appency. What do you guys do? And then we'll move in from there.
Sure. So my partner, Liz Jones, and I founded Appency back in about October of last year. Both of us being kind of veterans of the mobile industry from way back, and we'll kind of talk about that in a sec. But Appency was really brought forward because we started to see a lot of app developers out there who had great products, but couldn't get their products noticed. With the just giant explosion of apps in the App Store. I mean, I think, if you look on 148 Apps keeps tabs on these now, I think there's over 200,000 apps in the App Store. With one visual presence to be discovered on, suddenly you need to find other ways to get noticed. Mm-hmm. And Appency's tagline is actually "Make a big noise." A small reference to a Queen song. Which they wouldn't allow me to put in my website. I'm kind of upset about that. But what Appency does is it's more than just a PR agency, though you could probably classically define us as a PR agency. But we work with developers of all sizes, anywhere from a single guy in his garage who's building games to large clients, large technology companies with entire portfolios of applications, to major brands that are doing, branded apps and using them kind of as advertising in themselves. But we work with all of these different guys to get their app to stand out, to get noticed, and eventually to get sold. So that runs kind of a number of different gamuts. There is, again, the traditional PR route, which is working with various media outlets, working with the iPhone bloggers, the tech reporters, the everything from 148 Apps to the New York Times, depending on what type of application you're using. And one of the things that you have to say is that not every app is New York Times quality, and clients have to realize that.
Yes.
What we do is we look at the app, and we analyze the app, and we decide what the best targeting is for the app. And that usually consists of two things. One is the iPhone and mobile world. So the blog sites and the people who always are writing about iPhone and apps and things like that. But that's really only a small percentage of your audience, because most people with an iPhone may not necessarily be a tech or iPhone enthusiast enough to get their news there. So then we also look at the other side, which is what is your specific demographic focus? Are you creating games for kids, which means we're going to be looking at parenting magazines and sites and publications that cater to that. Are you business, and completely different set of targets for that. So again, there's a whole slew that falls under the PR bucket. Mm-hmm. Along those lines, we also do social media marketing. So understanding, there's all these great social networks out there, and each social network has really different strategies and tactics necessary to use them as effective promotion channels. And it's nice because these are channels that you can control, as opposed to PR. PR, you send stuff out, you talk with a reporter, but in the end, the reporter writes the story. Social media, it's your channel, it's your following, it's your page, and so you actually have the ability to control the message. So we help you control the message, and if you, as they say, if a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? Well, if you tweet in the Twitterverse and no one is watching your tweets, it doesn't make a sound either. So we help you build followings, build friends, build subscribers, etc. on your various channels, such that your message goes out and actually gets seen, gets responded to, and hopefully gets virally propagated as well. So retweeting, or when people on Facebook like your message and everyone who is following them sees it, things of that nature. One of the things that we run that I think has helped us stand out from a lot of our competition is a focus group service. This is called Rate My App, and what this is when a new application comes out, we actually send it out to a database of a couple hundred iPhone users, which we've acquired over the past months. These users are they're independent users, they're completely unbiased. They will go through and provide their kind of honest feedback on your application. And we do this, they self-select, so we send to 200 and we get 10, 20 reviews put together. They have to decide they want to review the app before they do it. These opinions, they then leave in iTunes for the world to see. So it is a very public focus group, but no one wants to go and see a new application that no one's left any reviews on. So, this kind of provides two things. One is it helps you, it helps the conversion rate from your app description page.
Yep.
And it also can help you identify additional issues. So, you're not doing what they traditionally call astroturfing. And astroturfing is a kind of an unethical practice where people pay other people for 5-star reviews.
Yeah.
This is it's a focus group. You will get, hey, I liked it, hey, I didn't like it. And generally we ask all of our reviewers to provide, if it's going to be criticism, it's constructive criticism. Here's what we didn't like about it, and here's what you could potentially do to fix it. The other thing that this solves is that generally in iTunes, when someone leaves you a review, you have no ability to communicate with them.
Yeah.
So I've had a lot of frustrated developers who are like, they ripped me a new one because they thought that level 16 was broken. They just weren't doing it right, And so, and they're really frustrated because these people leave bad reviews, and then there's no way to kind of communicate with them. So we do allow our developers, after a review has been left, to come to us and say, hey, we'd like to talk to that person on your list, and so that we kind of manage that. They never talk to the actual person. We kind of control that to keep a little bit of a buffer between them. On top of that, we help developers with their App Store presence. So everything from rewriting their descriptions, helping them choose their images that they're going to be using. We've done graphical user interface for some apps, just that needed kind of a rework to make them a little prettier. One of the most important things that we do is, it's one of those things that's very simple, but extremely important, is that we work on their SEO, which means that every developer, every app has only 100 characters of keywords that they can use in search. And the only things that iTunes are going to look at is your company name, your application name, and that 100 characters of keywords. So that has to be done right, or you'll fail.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no question about it. That has to be done right, or you will fail. And there's, it's amazing how many people there. I mean, there's so many little things about the SEO in iTunes that people just don't even know. I get clients, I'm like, can you send me over your keyword list? And they send me over their 5 words that they threw in there. And I'm like, well, you've got 100 characters, you use 20, use it all. And let's help evaluate what you need to be using, and, things to do to potentially piggyback off of other successful apps sometimes.
Well, let's talk. We're going to talk about that in detail, Aaron, because I'm really interested to, further on to talk about what entrepreneurs or what appreneurs are doing wrong and what they're doing right, and ways that we can actually figure this out. But I mean, what you guys offer is marketing in a box for these guys who just maybe focused on the technology side. And not really understanding what it means to market an application. Is that we kind of had different numbers. I think that 99% of application development is marketing. You think that 75% of it, but what entrepreneurs or what appreneurs really think is that 99% of everything should be in the development of the application, and then oh crap, we have to market this, right? Is that that's what kind of comes out in from my side? Is that what you're seeing?
Yeah, a lot of people come to us late, very late in the game.
Yeah.
You know, I just submitted to Apple. What can we do?
Yeah.
I've been in the App Store for 3 months. It's not going well. What can we do?
Yeah.
And, you know, we work with them, and it's much harder than I have an app coming out in 2 months. What can we do? Great.
Yes.
Well, we can do pre-buzz. We can, you know, make sure the app is completely ready before it ever gets there. You know, there is no second chance at that first impression.
So, so how did you get into this? Like, I mean, what was it? What was the inspiration to get into mobile? It's a young industry, and you know, I mean, the App Store has been around for a couple of years. So where did you come from?
Sure. So I got into mobile in a very strange way, actually. I am classically trained as a neurobiologist.
Okay.
Went to UCSD, University of California, San Diego. Was going the medical school route when I had a kid, and decided at some point that maybe raising a kid and being a physician are you know, I didn't want to hang out with my kid once I got through med school and he was 8. So I thought it was about time for a career change, and ended up looking for a job and hanging out on a friend's couch who happened to be, or not on the friend's couch, but going to a friend's office who worked at a small startup company, and using their internet to look for a job. And this company happened to be one of the first mobile marketing agencies about 8 years ago. So a company called Ipsh, founded by Nihal Mehta, who is a veteran. You know, he's very well known in the mobile industry. And so I would kind of hang out in the Ipsh offices and be looking for work. And as Nihal would come in, I'd say, you know, having understood a bit about what they were doing from hanging out there and talking to my friend who worked there, he'd come in and I'd be like, hey, you guys should be trying this, or have you thought about it this way, or, you know, things of that nature. And one day he's like, okay, Aaron, stop stealing my internet and start working. So I started out in a kind of basically an internship role at one of the first mobile agencies, and in about 3 years or so, I was running their sales team.
Wow! Wow!
So
you literally just kind of showed up and started working, and
pretty much, yeah.
They had to hire you.
Exactly. I actually invited myself to one of Nihal's meetings, and I had to go out and buy a suit for the meeting the night before because I didn't have anything that was appropriate to go to a meeting at an ad agency.
Perfect. Perfect.
So yeah, I literally fell into the industry by accident. Ipsh was extremely successful. It was acquired by Omnicom. It was really the first mobile agency that made it. It kind of set the groundwork for you know, a lot of other, you know, mobile advertising strategies that came later. You know, from there, I moved over. I was recruited by a company called the Hyper Factory to start their office in San Francisco. This whole time, actually, my partner Liz came from 20th Century Fox Mobile Studios, was one of the original people there, was a client of ours at Ipsh. And then when I moved over to the Hyper Factory, which is another mobile agency, we recruited her as well. So I've actually worked with Liz for probably more than 10 years now, in various different aspects. Liz and I both ended up leaving the Hyper Factory in about January of 2009 due to the economy, and they shut down a couple of our offices. And so we kind of got into a point, well, hey, what do we do now? So I was doing consulting for a long time, and I had a company come to me and say, hey, we develop mobile applications. In fact, we teach people how to develop mobile applications. We would like to have a class in how to market your mobile application. I was like, oh, okay, well, let me do some research. So we spent about 6 months doing research, creating class materials, and, you know, coming up with kind of all these strategies and concepts and everything else, and doing some tests as well. And in that time, actually started working with a couple developers to really test out these strategies. And in the end, the company that asked me to do the class decided not to, that they didn't have the resources to actually offer the class.
But now you had an expertise.
Right. Now I had an expertise, and I was like, you know what? There's a very strong business model here.
Yeah.
And, developers by kind of nature are not marketers. And marketers by nature are not really developers. So there's this big gap between, the things being built and the things being promoted. And every day that went by, there was more and more competition and more people crowding the App Store and more need to get promoted in order to actually succeed. So many people went in and they're like, I'm going to be the next iPhone millionaire, and I'm going to come out with my Doodle Jump clone, and I'm going to be as successful as they are. And they weren't. And they don't know why. And it's because you and everybody else did it at the same time, and you're not doing anything to get noticed.
So let's talk about this for a second. Is that so? You launch AppNC, which was kind of fall winter of last year. The idea's been germinating for quite some time, and what was the like? Were you guys busy right away? I mean, you picked the right time because it just seemed like last fall.
Sure.
Growth in App Store submissions, and it went every week. It was like 100,000. No, now it's 115. Now it's over 200.
Right.
So, I mean, was the reaction? Were the entrepreneurs?
It was pretty immediate.
Yeah,
it was pretty immediate. We were one of the first companies really to sit down in the space and claim it. What we saw was a couple traditional PR agencies who said, yeah, we can help you with that, which is nice. But there's so many specific rules and functions, and just the environment of the App Store is so unique that unless you're really focused on it, you're not going to know all the tips and tricks.
Right.
There's a couple companies out there who I absolutely think are great PR agencies and great competitors to us. And there's probably three of us. There's probably three companies who are doing this well. And for my own sake, I'm not going to mention the other two because, I don't need to push people out. But recently there's been a whole lot more starting to sprout up that don't do it well. Yeah. Or are just really kind of, we haven't seen enough from them to see. We actually launched AppNC first through a blog. My initial, as we kind of first started getting out there, I was doing a lot of blogging about app marketing and kind of building traffic, building up the AppNC name before we officially said, and now the doors are open and we're taking clients and we're going to help you market. Yeah. It was immediate. We have been, we actually have taken in no outside investment. Mm-hmm. We are completely running off of our own profit. We're a small team still, we're 5 people. But we are as busy as I think I have ever been in any job in my life. And I always knew that being an entrepreneur would be a busy type job and it'd be stressful. But, I go from morning till night eating, drinking, and sleeping apps.
Well, so let's talk about that. Is that there are so many applications out there now. Some that are good. A handful. I saw this great statistic. Not great if you're an application developer, but it was that there's something like 37 or 38,000 application publishers out there. This is just App Store we're talking about, and I think it's in the realm of 85 or 90% of all reviews on App Store are related to the top 170 publishers out of the 38 or 37 or 38,000 publishers that have actually put an app on App Store. So it's there's no long tail here. It is like if you were not in that top 100 or top 150 or top 200 application publishers in terms of downloads, in terms of awareness, it's a cliff, right? Like
it is.
It is a far fall, and even today on TechCrunch, and we're giving away the date, but today on TechCrunch, there's a great article about this Foghorn application that shot up to number 1. very quickly. And it talked about the impressions that it had. It was a free application. They were getting, before, when it was probably in the top 1,000, it was generating about 5,000 downloads a day when it started. And then by the time it crested at number 1 for 8 days, it was doing an average of about 170,000 downloads per day. And then what that translated into was about 2 million unique visits or impressions for ads. It was an ad-supported app.
Right, free app.
That generated between like June 1st and today, so 5 or 6 days, generated $20,000 in click-through rates. Right, the CPM is about $2 a CPM or something like that. But that's incredible, right? The difference between success and failure, right? Between being at 102 in the top 100 apps and being 99. 102, it's a struggle to get to 99, but when you get to number 99, you shoot up fairly quickly because of inertia and momentum, right?
Right. Well, it's visibility.
Yeah.
There are, and as I was mentioning before, like tips and tricks of the App Store. Like there are things about how the App Store is built that determine how visible you are to the market. Because the reality is the App Store itself will be the primary place in which people find you.
Right.
So, there's a huge difference between 102 and 98. There's a huge difference between 27 and 24. There's a huge difference between, there's these ladder points.
Well, there's a difference between, like, even, I implore you to go and take a look at this TechCrunch article, but there's a difference between 7 and 2.
Oh, sure.
Right?
But at least if you're at 7, you're in terms of visibility, if you're in 7, you're in the same visibility point as 2.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's these ladder points. And actually they just changed because iTunes just changed again. And iTunes is always changing. It used to be the main ladder point was top 20 because any given section would show you top 20 on the left and right, top 20 free, top 20 paid.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen anymore. Now it's top 10, top 10, top 10. So the ladder points changed again, which actually makes it a little bit more difficult for people to, get to that next visibility point.
Yep.
There's the iTunes within the phone itself, which has different ladder points. So, iTunes on your computer shows top 10. iTunes on your phone, I guess they don't call it the App Store on your phone, shows you top 25.
Yep.
So, again, different visibility ladder points. Tracking. It's very important for developers because, like you said, if you get to 102 and you know that 98 is a much better position to be at, the jump may not be that far. You may be trending 50 downloads a day less than the person above you. You don't know. We don't get those numbers, but that's the point where you're like, I need to do something right now because I know that if I can do something to make some noise, I can jump up in that position. Absolutely. We do what's called blitz marketing, which is we try to do as many things in a short amount of time as possible to get you to ratchet up in the App Store. Now, that is for an individual app. There's also, we are firm believers in the portfolio concept, where, there is only so many top 100 spaces that are ever going to be available. So in order to really maintain a successful business model, you're probably going to have multiple apps, and those apps need to be really good at cross-promoting each other. Because, if one of them gets featured by Apple or gets up into the top group, well, then you better capitalize on that, not just to get your, $20,000 in ad revenue for 6 days. You want that to also promote the 10 other apps that you have so that they get an incremental jump of maybe $1,000. So not you didn't just make 20,000, you made 20,000 plus 10,000 by promoting all the rest of the other apps. So
that's exactly.
It is very hard to make a living off of one application.
Well, that draw. It's exactly what they did with this Foghorn or Bullhorn or whatever it was called. It pulled up their other app that was averaging about, fewer than 1,000 downloads a day, and during the peak of this madness, it pulled it up proportionally. Yeah, so it was at 50,000 downloads or 40,000 downloads, right? It was pretty. And
it may not pull that other app up into the top 100, but it does pull the other apps up, and so portfolio marketing is very important.
So
you mentioned earlier, we provide marketing in a box, and I cringe because we don't.
Yeah.
Like, I hate the box. There's a couple of competitors out there that I really like. It just drives me nuts every time I go to their website. It's like, package 1, you get this. Package 2, you get this. And I'm like, wow, there's 200,000 apps and you have 3 packages. I don't think that's going to work for everybody.
Right.
Every app is unique. Every app is different. Every target is different. There are a lot of tactics that will work, or that are important. SEO, every app. PR, every app. How do you approach it? That was going to be different.
Yep. Yeah. Well, I think it's a key point, because demographics plays and who you're targeting. So games are different than enterprise applications, and utilities are different,
Sure.
Than productivity tools, right? So these are. I mean, you have to accommodate for who your target market is. It's real business, right? It's
Absolutely.
the same mentality,
Absolutely.
right? Like, but I mean, what are appreneurs doing wrong, right, today? Like, what have you seen that you just kind of say, well, like, aside from the obvious things. So yeah, I know, Aaron. Aside from the obvious things, like you detailed a little earlier about it, the fact that, well, the app's already been submitted, or the app is 90 days in, right?
Premature appulaunching.
Premature appulaunching? Oh no! Oh no! I'm gonna write that down. That's the new title. Premature appulaunching. That's terrible. I love it though.
Sorry, can I say that on video? No.
Yeah.
So, and that is launching before you are ready.
Yeah.
Launching before you have marketed. So
talk. Wait. Let's go through this one at a time. So launching before you are ready, right? So you've submitted, but that doesn't mean that you have to launch. That means you don't have to make it active, right?
So there's a couple things. One is faulty QA process. Okay. Yeah. I don't know how many apps they're like, look at my app, it's great, and we go through and it's like, my staff is like, I broke it here, and I broke it here, and I broke it here.
All right.
Okay. And the truthful is, Apple is not going to care. Unless you really mess up the phone somehow. They allow apps through all the time that are buggy. Mm-hmm. So, it'll get in the App Store and your reviewers will kill you. And it's hard to recover from that.
Yeah.
Unless you resubmit it or a completely new name, and so there's one thing.
Now, do you advise? Keep your thought right there for a second as I interrupt you. Do you advise? Your customers or your clients to make it great first time out, or do you say, like, get it up there and then we'll incrementally improve it? Like, I mean, there's a battle there, isn't there?
It depends.
Okay.
It depends on the app. It depends on the competitive environment for the app.
Yeah.
There's an argument for, I have an app that's exactly the same as someone else's app, but mine's cheaper.
Yeah.
There's an argument for, I have an app that's exactly like someone else's app with this, and this added, which makes it better, and it's more expensive.
Yep.
That's a whole continuum of possibilities. So where you fall on that kind of determines, your price point, your marketing strategy, and when you need to go out to market.
Okay.
So, with there being as many apps as there are, you're going to have competition. Yes. It's very few people who come to me and say, I have a unique app, never been done. Yeah. I started to do a little bit of research, and I'm like, well, it sort of has been done, and we can take that little nugget of what makes you think you're different and blow it out to be the story.
Yeah.
And finding that is great. Finding that, my favorite clients are the clients that have something unique that sticks out. We're working with a client right now. Is it okay to plug a client?
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you care? Okay. We're working with a client right now who's making a GPS navigation app. Well, geez, there's 15, 20 GPS navigation apps out there. And so, on our first phone call, like, okay, GPS navigation. Oh, by the way, it's free. Yeah. Okay, well, are you doing ads? Are you doing in-app purchase? Are you doing subscription? No, it's free. Never been done. Not on iTunes. If you look at the AT&T Navigator, it's free until you start, you have to buy $9.99 a month. Yeah. There's some that are hey, we'll give it to you for 99 cents. And then as soon as you get into it to make it work, you have to pay another $20.
Yeah.
And then you got the big guys like TomTom who are, hey, it's a $40 application, buy it or go home.
Yeah.
So the app developer Scobbler, they are using an open source mapping system, something that's basically the Wikipedia of maps. So, what makes navigation systems so expensive is that you've got these big companies who literally have people on the street who are mapping all the time. By eliminating that, they were able to provide something that was unique. And so there you go. You've got a hook. You've got something that is unique. So you may have one more navigation app, but now you've got something that makes you different, makes you stand out. And that's the thing that a reporter will pick up on.
There's interest there.
It's our job as a PR agency to help you identify it and then get it to the reporter so that they can write about it.
Okay, so premature
Appulation.
Appulation. I forgot the U there. Premature appulation. So one of them is that, like QA, I agree. QA is so important.
Sure.
So building a solid product that the first experience that the user has is not resetting their iPhone or their BlackBerry or their Android device, right?
Right, right.
I mean, what else is out there that you're seeing that?
Well,
the next thing you said was you were talking about pre-marketing, right?
Yes. So building a buzz.
Yeah.
Buzz is the buzzword.
So examples of that would give me some examples of that.
Well, various clients, as you said, they submit their app and they sit there and they watch to see when Apple's going to launch it.
Yeah.
Like Apple should never launch your app for you. You should launch your app. So, always set your release date so far in the future that you're never going to get caught with your pants down.
Yep.
Once Apple says, yes, it's okay, you can turn it on whenever you want to. Then you decide what is the optimal date. Why there has to be a reason for the date that you've chosen. Don't just draw a number out of a hat and choose it. Things like social networks, they work better when you have a following. So if you, on day one, launch your app and start a Twitter account for it, what's the point?
Yeah. So your first tweet is hey, we launched our game.
Hey, I just launched an app.
That's great. Or launched an app. Yeah.
You're talking to no one. There's a ton of places where you can start kind of leaking the word out. I mean, there are you can talk to reporters, and if you can give someone an exclusive, they're 10 times more likely to be like, oh, it's an exclusive. I want to talk about that now.
Yep.
There's a ton of different forums where you go in and start putting bits of information out. We have a client right now who's launching an app, and it's we're in the pre-marketing phase, and so we're doing a naming contest. It's like we've got great artwork and we've got great concept, and we don't have a name thing. So you start to build this following of people who are like, no, it should be this. No, it should be that. But the thing is you've got people talking about it,
and they're getting emotional about it.
It actually launches in a few weeks. Those people are going to be like, well, I talked about it, now I want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So anything that you can do to create hype before, through various media, through just, spread the word to your friends, anything, is great, because your launch is a great time to get noticed.
Yeah.
Coming at it 3 months after the launch, it's less interesting to reporters. It's, people are less inclined to be like, oh, this isn't really new, it's just different.
So, I mean, is that important to? If you're not found on your launch, so you allow Apple to launch your application, or you set a date and it still doesn't take off. Is all hope lost for that application?
No.
90 days later, you're like, well, I might as well just. It's a terminally ill patient. We're going to turn it off, life support, and go focus on something else. Or do you think that there's how much influence can marketing and PR have on the growth of an application, even if it's 90 days old?
Well, the best PR agency cannot make a bad app a success.
Right.
You can buy your way into success for a short period of time, through pay-per-click advertising and things of that nature.
Yep.
But eventually, you're going to have spent more than you've made, and you're going to, in the end, fail. So it's you can fake lift to try to, I'm going to buy my way into the top 100. Well,
Yep.
If you did it, but if your app was not quality, then, that will only last for the few brief seconds while your wallet is open and you're infusing cash into it.
Yes.
If the app is failing, the first step is to stop and figure out why. Is it because you didn't market? Is it because it's a bad app? Is it because there are too many other apps trying to do the same thing? There's a ton of things like that where you really have to take a step back and say, what's actually going on here? And we help people with that. It's, people come to us and say, I've had this out for a while. It's not going well. And occasionally it's, the response is, well, I don't think that one's going to do well. You have a very, someone came to me the other day with a Korean cooking food dictionary. And I was like, okay, there are, there's probably a few thousand people in the U.S. who are really going to love your app, but it's never going to be mass market appeal. And for something like that, if there's only a couple thousand people who are going to want it, your hiring of a PR agency might be counterproductive because of costs. I mean, we understand that most developers are low budget, especially if they're launching one of their first apps. And we'll work with some of those guys on rev share, or we have to evaluate these. Do we believe in the app before we take them on as a client?
Yeah. Well, I mean, absolutely, and especially with rev share, you've got to feel comfortable that the application actually serves a purpose.
Sure.
Yeah. And I think that I mean, when you talk about application developers, it is there's a wow, that would be cool, and wow, that would sell, or wow, that would be useful, right? And oftentimes that'd be cool overshadows, wow, that's useful, and so you have those conversations with some of the entrepreneurs that say, wow, that's cool, not useful, but cool.
Who's going to buy it?
Yeah.
And we turn clients down all the time. It's as I mentioned before, we're a small team. We have a limited amount of bandwidth and manpower. Our ideal clients are clients with quality apps that just haven't taken that next step to get discovered.
Gotcha.
I don't want to work with an app that I don't believe in, that's never going to sell. And there's been a few apps that I liked and believed in, but they were small to a point where it was going to be an only rev share deal or something. And it's like, well, if that's the case, then I first have to focus on paying clients. And if we can bring in an independent one-person developer and help them, we're going to do that as well.
So let's talk about a few other things around here. What have you found that has worked very effectively for some of your clients? So
you want my secrets? No.
That's what this is about, right? Yeah, no. Yep. I mean, so you've got the GPS company. I noticed on your blog you wrote about the company, and I mean that they have a great story, right?
Right.
And it's topical because of Android and the free turn by turn, and the for pay on the iPhone. So there's something that's newsworthy, noteworthy. You're going to get media from that. You're going to be able to hit the right notes because it's topical. But so take that one out for a second.
Okay.
What I hate to take you got to take the easy one and the hard one out, and we'll go with the middle ones, right?
Sure.
And so
we'll go for the average client.
Exactly.
The average app.
What has worked? There's what. I mean, how do you work with these customers that come into, or these clients that come into you and say, well, this is a product that does a little bit of this and a little bit of that, but it does it a little bit better, and you believe in it, and you think that there's a market for it, but there's 50 of them in the category, and
right.
They have goals of 10,000 or 100,000 downloads, or what has worked for you? Social media, like a good combination of everything?
Sure. It is a good combination of everything. It's, I mentioned before, we kind of call it blitz marketing, in that most of your competition at this point is probably surfing. They're probably out there, and look, I'm doing okay, and, most developers aren't promoting themselves very well. So you've got 50 guys who are kind of sitting here, and they're kind of cruising along, and sometimes one bumps up and sometimes another bumps up. It often doesn't take enough for one guy to say, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do it all within a week. And all of a sudden, whoosh, they stand out from the crowd, and everyone else is rushing to catch up. Like, oh, what happened? All of a sudden, there's a couple news stories about these guys, and they've optimized their SEO, and so when you search for my app, why is their app showing up? Why is it in front of my app? There ways to use small bursts of paid advertising. Paid advertising is one of those things where it's really easy to throw a lot of money into paid advertising and get very little response.
Especially if you're selling
people who are like,
if you're selling something for $2 or $3 or $4, I mean, it's outrageous.
Your profits are so small.
Yeah.
But which is why places like AdMob are doing well. I mean, they understand that the first limiting factor in your advertising is, does the person own an iPhone? Okay, well, when you start with the ads are on an iPhone, you've taken care of that one.
Yeah.
Same thing with going to app review sites and buying ads there. Well, pretty much your entire audience should theoretically have an iPhone, or they wouldn't be there in the first place.
Yeah.
But you really have to look at the cost analysis and say, if I'm spending $300 on this banner ad, am I going to make that $300 back? And you have to do the math.
Yeah.
And the reality is most of the time the answer is no. And sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
And the time that that's okay goes back to the ladders. If you can spend $300, make $50, but bump yourself up on the ladder, that bump on the ladder is going to be what makes you the $300 back.
Yeah. And then some, you hope, right?
And then some, yes.
So, I mean, like, it sounds to me that a lot of entrepreneurs or appreneurs who are doing these launching their first or their second app on any platform, they don't have a lot of money, right?
Right.
And that's I think a stumbling block when it comes to maybe it's a mental stumbling block or a hurdle for them to be able to come to you guys or anybody in the PR or marketing side. Especially focused on application, you guys know that they have no money, so you work with these guys to be able to say, listen, we know you don't have any money. I don't know if you guys do I don't know how your pricing is, but you must be able to accommodate. Like you said earlier, there's
sure.
Sometimes we work with them on a profit share or but
it's a case by case. Okay. It really is. If we look at someone and say, wow, this has so much potential, and I know you don't have the money, but we believe in it, you believe in it, and we know what needs to be done. Yeah, I'm happy to do rev share.
Okay.
And that puts us as much, we have as much to lose as you do.
Okay.
A lot of clients don't want to do that. They're bigger companies with, we want you to come in and, our prices tend to be low enough that if you're a bigger company, your success will make much more than our fees are, which is great. I mean, that's how it should be.
I'd say.
Therefore, we accept your fee and we move forward. And every iteration of that in between.
So one of the things that I have certainly found myself saying over and over again is somebody behind you there?
No. I was seeing what was written on the whiteboard to make sure it was.
No, it's okay. We won't be able to see that. Look, I'm going to zoom in right on that whiteboard over there, and it's going to be like, that's the secret right there. It's just a client list. Don't worry, it's fine.
No, it's actually our quote board when funny things are said around the office.
Oh,
not all of them are appropriate for a general audience, however.
That's great. I know I've lost my train of thought. Perfect, because it was probably a hard question. When you start to talk about working with these appreneurs and focusing in on kind of a grassroots campaign prior to the launch of an application, how does it change? I mean, what should they notice, or what do they notice on the day that it launches? So you set your day, say whatever it is, July 1st, and your application is ready. You've built up a little bit of following. You've got a little Twitter following. You got a little bit of Facebook fan action going on. You have more than one tweet, for example.
Right.
You've thrown up, like, this is kind of standard stuff. You've thrown up videos on demo videos of the app or whatever it is, so that people get a sneak peek. you've handed out a bunch of UDIDs so that they can go and play around, and you've enticed some people to do some reviews or generated some interest. I mean, should it be like on launch day? Should it just be cruising at a good speed and then pow, or should you just see a continual natural hockey curve that goes up and just maintain that hockey curve? Or, I mean, what works for you guys? What are you guys trying to achieve for them?
Well, we're trying to achieve kind of the POW in the beginning, which helps because, if getting up is the hard part. Staying up is hard as well. But once you've gotten up there, then it's the fight changes.
Yeah.
So, you getting from 0 to top 100 or top 200 or whatever is the first hurdle.
Yeah.
And then, then a lot of that is simply about either your search or the pre-buzz that you've done. Staying in that is a lot about, fighting the good fight and continuing to, put the pressure on and continue. I mean, it's hard, So many apps are coming out that, especially when you push your story in the beginning, it's a new app, because if it does, it's great. Okay, well, now what?
Yeah.
People like Doodle Jump and Pocket Devil and Pocket God and the other one, and all of those guys are great at that because they're constantly changing.
Yeah.
They're constantly updating. There's always something to talk about, and because of that, there's always new people discovering it. You've got to keep refreshing yourself. You've got to keep it interesting. You've got to keep changing and growing and making a better product, because eventually, if you don't, someone else will, and they're going to take your spotlight, or Apple's going to feature other people and they're going to take your spotlight, and it's going to happen, which is the other reason why having a portfolio is great, because, okay, well, the spotlight's now off of this one. Well, I now have another one that the spotlight can be on, and its sales can help the others.
And you leverage the effort that you've done in building your lists from the first product into the second product, so you have a little bit warmer of a launch, right?
Which is where social networks come in.
Yeah.
CRM marketing, email, all of those things are really, growing your brand is as important as growing your app.
Okay. Well, I mean, I was getting into it before I was looking at your quote board. One of the things that I've kind of wrapped my head around, or tried to wrap my head around, is pricing, right?
Okay.
So this is one of these things that I'm very passionate about, the fact that the applications that I use on my iPhone, the applications that I use on my BlackBerry or my Android device or my iPad, or even my laptop or desktop, I want them to come out with another version. It's always important that they come out with another version. And if I'm not supporting those developers, they're not going to be around in a year to come out with a new version. So, I mean, do you work with your clients on pricing strategy? And I mean, do you believe that you just go with a norm, like you take an average? I ask people, I say, so how did you come up with $2.99 for your app that took you 9 years to build, and a degree in neuroscience, right? To be able to get this thing done properly, and you've quit your job and you're focusing exclusively on this, and you're selling it for $2.99, and you have to sell how many consistently, continuously for the next how long to generate enough revenue to survive? And I think it's insane. Right? I think that the pricing is incredible. Again,
portfolio. You need to have more than one app. But for each individual app, one thing I hate is the rush to the bottom. Everyone wants to be the next 99-cent or free app.
Oh, yeah.
That's great, but just dropping your prices is not necessarily going to get you a win. In fact, what we found is that the lower your prices, the more likely you'll get trashed in the App Store. Free apps get negative reviews 10 times more than paid apps. Why? Because the 14-year-olds with their iPod touches don't want to download your paid app.
Yeah.
On the other hand, $5.99 apps, $6.99 apps get a lot more 5-star reviews, because generally we'd like to think that the good ones have put more time and effort into it. They're going out there and saying, no, I'm $5.99 because I'm worth $5.99.
Yeah.
Our competitor might be $3.99, but there's a reason we price it higher. You get that implied feeling of, maybe it's better because it costs more. Why does it cost more? oh, well, maybe I think that because it costs more, maybe it is better. So I'm gonna go download that one instead. The reality of it is, to you and me, to a 30 to 40 to 50-year-old consumer, the difference between $2.99 and $5.99 is nothing.
Oh, yeah.
It's nothing.
It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
It's a latte.
Yeah, it is.
Which is important to me, but
well, yeah, there's a balance of importance, right?
Sure.
But you're right, and the insanity of a 99-cent application or a $2.99 application is versus a $4.99, $5.99, $6.99. I'm spending $20 now on my iPad without blinking because I see some value on it, and so when you talk to customers, do you have to fight them on the pricing, or is it just you just kind of acquiesce and say, look,
well, if we give them a reason for the pricing that we recommend.
Okay.
So it's a combination of competition and market and quality of your app and where your app fits. And as I said, there's a continuum. Like, are you providing more features? Are you better in some way, and thus we need to up the price, or are you the poor man's version of the app, and therefore your strategy is volume over profit margin.
Okay.
I am pretty much out of time.
Okay. Well, I know.
I don't know if you were getting my Skype messages.
Oh no. That's because I put on Do Not Disturb. That's great, isn't it?
Okay.
So I'll just finish off and look, Aaron, I think we could. This is such a topical piece of conversation that we could do this for the rest of. I could do this for.
We could do it for the rest of the day easily.
Yeah, I could just sucky drive all of your knowledge and then put it up for everybody to read.
There you go.
But listen, I really do appreciate you coming on and spending some time, talking about the importance of what you guys do. And I would love to have you back on and focus on a few very specific topics that a lot of the viewers of Untether,
sure.
they keep coming up. And if you don't mind, I'll connect with you offline and see if we can get you guys back on. So listen, I've been talking with Aaron Watkins, who's the co-founder of Appency. It's appency.com, right?
Yep.
And you have a Twitter account that people can reach at
Appency.
Okay. And we've been talking about mobile PR, mobile marketing, and the importance of it. And we unfortunately ran out of time with Aaron. But thanks again, Aaron, for participating. And that's another session of Untether.tv. If you found some value, offer your comments below. We'll get Aaron back on to finish this very, very, very important conversation.
Thanks Rob. Thanks for having me, and I'm looking forward to the next chat.
Okay. Take care.
Okay, take care.